So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the activity that we have for this week. And for today, what we're going to do is I have some note cards here, and I would like to have everybody write down some fear or worry that triggers their depression. And if you just write down like 3 or 4 ideas, one per note card, and then fold it up and we'll put it in the hat. And then afterwards we'll discuss anonymously as a group. We'll have each person pull one to read out loud, and then we'll just kind of discuss some strategies or different ways to look at that trigger to see if that's something that we can brainstorm some ideas of how to look at things differently. So I'll pass these out, and if you would just take some and pass the rest, and then I'll give you a couple of minutes to write down some ideas, and then we'll have the hat. Okay, so right now I just had you pull one to focus on, and then the rest of them that we have, we can talk about those later. That could be a homework assignment, or we could discuss it at the next session. So right now we're just going to focus on one, just to kind of get you guys used to thinking about different ways to look at this trigger. So before we begin talking about it, I'd like to remind you guys about the strategies that we've used previously with our last sessions. So these are the thinking styles that really are not helpful for us. So we want to make sure that we're doing positive thinking and really trying to change the way we're thinking about things. With that in mind, what I'd like to have us focus on today is changing the way we think about those triggers that we've talked about. And we've mentioned triggers before in our previous sessions. And on here, changing the way we think about triggers, I have a couple of different words on here to try and help think of different ways that we could look at the triggers that make us worry, or the worries or fears that trigger our depression. So I'd just like to have some people see if they can give me some examples of maybe like a prompt, a way that could prompt you to do something different, a way it could kind of be like a request, a cue, an offer, or a call to action. So when you see those words, is there anything that stands out to you that maybe would help you think of something different? Do I have anyone who would like to?
I think prompt stands out to me out of all of them. Just because I think if I were in a situation, instead of reacting to the situation and getting depressed, maybe it would instead prompt me to, think about it more positively.
Okay.
Kind of changing my way of thinking, I guess. But I suppose it depends on the situation.
Okay. So there might be a trigger that normally would make you feel depressed, but you could try and change the way you think about it and think, okay, no, I'm feeling this trigger, this is going to prompt me that I need to know I need to make a change.
Making the acknowledgement of it.
Okay, good. Does anybody have any else maybe for offer?
I think maybe offer is, depending on what I'm going through, if I can look outside of myself and see if somebody else is having struggles with something that I've learned to deal with, that maybe I can offer some help.
Okay, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Especially in our group here. It would be really helpful to
Yeah.
share some of those strategies. All right, any of the other ones?
I think call to action. So if I have that trigger, then I'll recognize it, and then it would call me to change my actions and do something positive instead of something negative.
Okay, sounds good.
Requests, I guess I could request either a friend or family member to help me, or if they even see something as far as maybe I sleep more or something, to just kind of help me, get through that.
Okay, those are all great ideas, and you guys are definitely seeing the way to change this trigger. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to read the trigger that you pulled out of the hat, and then I'd like you guys to discuss it and really try and come up with some strategies that you could share with each other about ways that we could change this trigger. So the way that we're thinking about this trigger. Angela, would you like to start?
Okay, I'm afraid to ask for help because that makes me vulnerable. So I just isolate myself. That makes me more depressed.
Okay. Does anybody have any strategies or ways that they could say, when I start feeling this way, what could I do that would trigger, when I start feeling this trigger, how can I change this? What can I change about my thinking?
So the one that's up there would be request. That person can find somebody that, even maybe somebody in this group or a friend that they do trust, and open up to them and ask for help. And maybe that friend would be able to do something socially with them to get them out so that they're not isolating.
Great idea.
I agree with Danielle. I think having one point person that can really be your rock and help pull you out of that dark place you're in would be helpful. Even one person that you can go to, when you're feeling down and you're isolating yourself, to reach out to that person, or maybe they check in with you more frequently just to make sure you're okay.
Those would be great strategies to use. Do either of you have anything you wanted to add to that? All right, Amy, if you'd like to read your.
Okay, mine says, I am not good enough.
Okay.
Um,
Does anybody have any strategies? So if you start feeling that trigger, that this is going to trigger your depression, what are some strategies that could be used? You're not feeling good enough.
I think that's definitely a cue. When you're, doing negative, whoever it may be, doing negative kind of self-talk, really slow down and think about it in your head and realize that you're doing it and use it as a cue, like, I need to change this into positive self-talk instead.
Everyone's not able to do that.
It's
What if
hard.
they're not able to do that?
Maybe another option would just be starting your day with, a positive quote or saying, or put one up before bed so when you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you see. Start your
So your cue could be to, if, instead of trying to figure out how you're going to change, you could just go, your cue is to look at that card
Right.
then and just read that. That's a good idea.
And that's one thing that I found that's really helpful for me is the affirmation. So to have something that I look at all the time to make me feel better about myself and things that I know that are true.
So you would post these affirmations like on your fridge or?
Like even on your mirror, or say it like in your car every day on the way to work or something like that.
Make the desk calendars too with positive affirmations that you could get.
So finding one that's kind of meaningful might be the two. I mean, it's great that they have all of those different ones you can read through, but there's going to be maybe some that stand out more than others that are really meaningful. So maybe finding one that really kind of fits with you, that helps you feel better. That's a great idea. All right, we have a couple more.
The card that I pulled says, not being able to overcome this depression.
Okay, so that's a worry that triggers more depression. Just feeling like I'm depressed, it's not going to get better. What could be some strategies when that feeling comes into play?
I think, again, having a support system for this one would be important. Whether you're able to reach out and ask for help, or have someone appointed kind of to keep an eye on you and notice the signs and symptoms and help pull you out of that safe spot to make you more vulnerable to change.
I think too you could use like call to action, because we are a part of this group. Like that's just the step that you're taking to get out of that depression and try to overcome it.
So taking responsibility and stepping
Yeah.
forward. And
Trying to do something actively, proactively to not just stagnant.
Jill, to read yours?
I recently opened up to a friend about my problems, and she told me to just get over it.
Okay. So we've talked about the support system being really important in a lot of these situations, but what do we do when we reach out for that support and there's not the support there? So what would be something strategies that you guys would suggest for someone that had that happen?
Think of maybe like offer to help educate that person about depression, because obviously she doesn't understand that it's just something that we can get over, something that we can change that easily, so.
That's a good way to look at the word offer too. I hadn't thought about it that way, so, yeah.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to suggest?
Maybe at that point, it's, necessary to call to action someone else. Maybe that support system that you thought you had really isn't as supportive as it was, or whatever.
And I think it's just, I don't know, I feel like that it doesn't make sense because I feel like you should just get over it. I mean, I've been raised to just get over what I'm feeling. I mean, I'm trying to change, but it's like, just get over it. Like, why?
So even with yourself, you've got to do that. You have to change that self-talk in your mind and try and figure out a positive way to even talk to yourself when you're feeling these things. Because that's one of the things we've realized is it's not something that you can just will yourself out of as much as you try. And changing your thoughts can definitely help that, but it's not always going to just be that easy. So it's a good point that the way we talk, that self-talk can even, and especially if you pick up what other people are saying and then use that and you kind of repeat that over and over again, that kind of gets stuck in your head. So it's important to look at the strategies we talked about before and really look at the kind of thinking that you're doing. If you want to be doing positive thinking, it's not that all or nothing. It's not that, I'm either, good or not good or those sorts of things. So really, finding the good qualities like we talked about, the affirmations, and really focusing on those things and trying to build yourself up from those.